Welcome to this second video about your literature review process. In this video, we're going to continue with the first video about the literature review, where we discuss the importance of the literature review, and also I provide you with a couple of ideas that you can use to start with your literature review process. In this second video, I'm going to explain a specific strategy that you can use to develop your literature search and start writing your work. And also, at the end of the video, we're going to see the different criteria that we're going to be using in this class to evaluate your report. First and all, this picture is very good and I'd like to review it in detail because it kind of summarizes the different type of sources that you should be using to conduct your literature search. We have these two dimensions. The one here, it represents the timing of the ideas. Okay, so we have this go from new ideas to older ideas. Okay, so that's what we have in this side. In the other side, we have the quality of that material. So it goes from a lower type of material, a lower quality material, to a very high quality of information that provides you these different sources. And what we see here inside this pyramid are the different material that you can be used for your work. Okay. So when we review this material, the early stage material, okay, you're going to find it in conference papers, newsletters, dissertation and thesis papers posted on websites, okay? That material, sorry, that material usually have a very good information and comes from academic um, context and used to be very new. But the problem many times with this is that we don't know if it went through a really review process. Okay. The second type of source here in the middle are journal articles. Okay. Usually we know that when a journal decided to publish a work, it went through a peer review process. That kind of ensure us that people that knows about that topic validate that information, and that's why the journal accepted to publish it in their journal. And the third type of sources are the encyclopedias, handbooks, and research studies. Usually, that material is very good, but the information that it's going to take some time and a lot of information to have to be collected about the same topic to collect those, synthesize, and produce a book. That's why it's going to take some time and used to be like older material, okay, that they are going to include in that type of sources. But it went through a very high quality review process, so we can ensure that the information that you're going to find in this type of sources is very good quality. So if we think these are the different materials that you have to be using, and we want to find like a balance between timing and the quality, and we make kind of this to find like the central point, we see that hopefully most, and doesn't mean that all have to be, but most of your sources have to be here in this middle point that are your articles. Okay, that is going to ensure you that it's kind of new material and with good quality. Now, we're going to review these four steps that you can use to start organizing and writing your work. The step number one is to organize the literature into different themes. when you start collecting all your material, it's very important that you start organizing and summarize it. And in this first step, it's going to help you to kind of put in order all those information and start like thinking in the order that you're going to be presenting your information. In order to do this, you have to start developing a conceptual picture of what you want to tell in your literature review report. Okay, how we're going to call that picture? A literature map. Okay, that is a figure or drawing that is going to visually organize and show the literature into different topics. This literature map is going to encourage you to think about these larger ideas that are important and are going to merge across the relevant literature that's going to follow your research. An example of this kind of picture, the literature map, is this one. This one is about food safety. And if you see here, this is the main topic of this research. But it had these three general topics that the author identified as important to develop in their literature search, to know and to describe the relevant literature about this topic. Okay, foodborne illness, instruments and knowledge, attitude and behavior. And below this topic, they have like subtopics that they identify as important as well to develop in their literature review. Now, other thing that is important, and I'm going to explain that in a moment, that they also identify like the main research that they want to include in each one of these topics and subtopics. That means that these works are theoretical development about these subtopics or the topics that they identify as important. These are the relevant authors that they want to review to develop their work in this type of literature map. After this, they have another topic that they identified with these two subtopics, another subtopic that comes from diverse families with the supporting authors, and then they here have what exactly they are going to be doing. So this is a very good way to represent in one image all the key theory that they're going to use as a reference to develop their work. So again, step number one is to organize the literature into these themes. So you have to use these guidelines to construct this picture. First, identify the key terms of your general topic and place it at the top of the map. Do you think of the map I showed you before? That's exactly what they did here. This one, okay, these three. Second, take your review sources and sort them in groups of the related topical areas. So they identify like the key authors that they're going to use to support that topic. Provide a name for each of the themes. Okay, so like just one word, hopefully, or could be a short phrase that represent what exactly you're going to be developing in each one of the things that you identify as important. Indicate your own words on the map. So like, for example, in the example that I show you, they have like their own information that they are going to be doing as a research purpose in their literature map. Here is another example. Here's another example of a literature map. This one is about interventions and related with these two different areas, therapeutic arts and education creativity. These are the main authors that develops these two type of interventions, and they kind of compare and contrast those different approaches to these interventions. This one comes from medical and clinical, and they have all the different subtopics identified with the authors that support those. And this one, the education creativity in college training and K-12, and also with the supporting authors that they're going to be using to develop this. And then their own words to show what exactly they are going to be doing. So these are different approach and a different way to show the work they want to do. But it's very effective to really tell what exactly they want to do in their literature review. The second step is to start writing a summary of the major themes. So you identify the topics or the themes, and then you start writing there. Okay. So once the literature is organized, you start the writing process. You use your literature map, so you have the picture, to prepare an outline for your review. So before you start like really writing the paragraphs of your work, you need to have this outline. Okay. A well-written literature review are organized so the reader can easily follow the ideas presented, and preparing an outline will help you to organize your writing. This is very true. When someone reads your work, uh, they need to see that you organize that information. Okay, and if a literature review that is not well organized, a reader can see that. Okay, that you repeat ideas, that sometimes you put ideas that doesn't belong to the topic. Okay, that's a very common mistake. So when you start from an outline, you really know exactly where each idea needs to go. You develop an outline that follows the logical order, topics, and subtopics that you identified in your literature map. When you are doing this, it's important that you identify the headings in your outline that comes from the names that you put in the main themes. Okay, headings are the signpost that the writers use to designate the topics and subtopics in a writing document. The labels of the headings provide a logical subdivision of the text from the topics and subtopics. In general, when we are writing and we design these headings and subheadings, we can uh, we kind of tell the reader what is more general and what is more specific. As long as we go more specific, we have another subheading. I think I have an example here that comes from that work, that the second literature map that I showed you. This is the title of the paper: Design of Conducive Environments at the Intersection of Art and Art Therapy and Creative Education Interventions. The first part of this work is the statement of the problem. That's the chapter one. And then comes the literature review. The main topic that they develop here, like the first bubble that they show you, therapeutic art intervention. And this has this topic, another topic, and these two subtopics. Okay. And the second part of this literature review, education creativity interventions, with these two major topics with subtopics. Well, with these two subtopics. And then, and this is very important, okay, they have the conclusions. Okay, they conclude, and we're going to see that that's part of the steps that I'm going to explain you today. It's important that you conclude like the main ideas and the main points that you want to highlight from your reviewed theory. Also, from this outline, you can start like putting some numbers, okay, that represents the level of each heading and subheading. For example, this is section 1.0. This is going to be 1.1, 1.2, 2, because it comes from here. And this one is a subheading from this one. So this should be 1.2.1, 1.2.2. Second, oh, second topic, 2, and then 2.1. This is subheading from this one, so it's 2.1.1, and like that. You see? So kind of help also when this work start, like you start writing and you have a lot of pages, it kind of help you to see where this comes from. Okay, so this should be 2.2. This is one way to represent the level of the headings and subheadings that you're going to be using in your work. The step number 3 is to start documenting the sources by including the citations of the literature. Okay, this is very important. Okay, and when you start writing, okay, you must include the citations or references of all the sources that you are using. Okay, and all the information, where is that information that you're using to write, you have to include it in your citations. Okay, you have to avoid this word that sometimes we kind of you hear this word, and we think that this is something wrong, but something we use, we commit this mistake, but we don't know that we're doing it. Okay, this word is plagiarize. Okay, a plagiarize means that to represent someone else's ideas and writings as if they are our own ideas. Okay, you need to try to avoid that. Probably most of the information that you're going to be using in your literature review comes from other ideas, comes from other works that you have you're reviewing or you read. It's important that you provide the credit of that information, where that comes from. Here are some, I think we have reviewed this, but some general guidelines that you have to use to make these citations. Okay, the in-text references are these references that you cite in a brief format within the body of the text. As a general rule, you include the last name of the authors that appears in the article, and also you have to include the year of the publication. Okay, for example, Johnson, comma, and the year. If there's more than one author, you write the word and if the names are used in the part of the sentence. Okay, and if you put it at the last part and between parentheses, you use the symbol of and between the two authors. Okay, for a work with one or two authors, include the authors' names in every citation. For works with 3 or more, include only the last name of the first author plus et al. That means the other collaborators, the people that collaborate on the work in every citation. Here's a chart that you can use as a reference. I took it from the 7th edition APA book, okay, that you can use as a reference with different type of um, cases that you can find when you are doing your citing in your text. Okay, so here with the symbol and with the word earn when you put it inside the sentence. Okay, here with authors and with other type of organizations. It's very important that at the end of your work, you have to list all your references. Okay, that's something that I think you know you have to do it, but it's important that also you don't forget that. Okay, so that's a list of all the references that you cited in your work. Okay, You have to start with the title references. Okay, you have to list all the cited references in alphabetically order by the last name of the first author. Okay, you include all the references. I already said that. Use a hanging indent from each references. Okay, that means that the first line is left adjust and the subsequent lines are indented. Okay, I'm going to show you an example of that. Double space the text of the references. Here's an example. And also, if you go to this website, you are going to see a lot of different examples of different sources that you may be using in your work. And it's an example of how to reference that. Okay, that website is a very good material. So your reference list should look something like this. Okay. Remember to include this one of the things that I think I told you in the feedback from the research problem. Um, include the DOI, okay, address. If you don't have a DOI, you can include the website. Okay. The last step of your review is to provide your conclusions. Okay, it's very important that you finish your work with the general conclusions of your work. A good review concludes with a thoughtful discussion about the work that you review and summarize and provides some comments about the literature. Okay? In doing that, you can follow these two general questions and try to answer during that general conclusions. What are the major ideas from all the studies I reviewed? Your answer to this question will result in the identification of 3 to 5 themes that are going to help you to summarize your literature review. Now, the last part of this video is to talk about how we're going to evaluate your work. Okay. The main purpose of including a literature review in a research is that the author informs the readers about the background of the theory that's going to support your study. Okay. By doing this, you demonstrate that the research is grounded in the knowledge that exists in the literature. A good rigorous literature review conveys that the research completed a comprehensive review of the literature and organized that information and synthesized that information into this report that we're going to call it literature review. Okay. You made clear how the literature was used to direct and inform how you conduct the study. So that are like the key elements that we expect to see in your literature review reports. How we're going to evaluate with this rubric, and we're going to, it has 7 standards, but we're not going to use these 2 because they are aimed for a finished work. Since this is just your research project, with these 2 elements doesn't apply for your work. Okay, so we have these 5 key elements that I'm going to be reviewing in your work. Okay, and also I'm going to post this in EVA so you can check this in detail. But before going point by point, it's important also that you check these key elements. These are the 5 quality criteria that I'm going to be evaluating in your work and the indicators of higher quality. Okay, just to name a couple of important indicators. In the first one, the review includes the relevant literature. It's important that the sources that you're using comes from high quality and academic material. Okay, that is important here. Um, so you include different sources, okay, the quality of the source, and also subtopics are included. And that means how you organize and you develop that work. Second criteria, the review examines sources that are recent and high quality. Okay, that was I telling you before. It's important where you took that material and also how old is it. Okay, I recommend that most of your work comes from hopefully less than 10 years old. Okay, and hopefully like more than 50% of your literature is from at least 5 years old. The third one, quality criteria, is the literature review is appropriately documented. So that means that as long as you're writing and presenting the information, you include the citations, okay? You get credit, the sources that you use to develop this work. The next one, number four, the literature is thoughtfully synthesized. So it's important that at the end of your literature review, it could be at the end of each section of the literature review, you kind of provide a good summary of what you review. And also that you integrate your ideas and so the reader can follow your work and understand how you're presenting those ideas. Finally, the last one, the literature is critically examined. That means that at the end of the work, okay, you provide that summary that kind of highlight the main points and findings of your work. Okay, it's important again that you know the criteria that I'm going to be using to review your work. And also, here are the indicators that I'm going to be using to evaluate that work. So with that, we are done with all the information that you need to develop your literature review. I hope to see you in classes. In this class, we're going to do some practice about how to construct a literature map. So it's going to be a kind of a workshop. So I hope to see you there. And I'm going to upload, of course, these slides as a handout that you can have it if you wanted to review it as a reference. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in classes. Bye bye.